What's up, people? It is Dave, Duncan, and Kyle back from Epidemic for another review. For this review, Duncan, Kyle, and I have been checking out the new EP from Brooklyn post-metal band TOMBS. The band's new EP, Ex Oblivion, will be released on July 13th via Season of Mist Records. So, TOMBS have been on the go since around 2007. They've had 5 albums, and this will be their 5th EP to date. The majority of the EP was recorded by Justin Spaeth at TOMBS Metal Compound and then mixed by Bobby Torres at Frightbox Studio. But there was also some work done by Alap Momon and Dwid Helian and Mike Hill. Formed in the gritty corners of the pre-gentrified Brooklyn, TOMBS' early mandate was steeped in the harshness and atonality of black metal, but dosed with trace amounts of the varied influences and inspirations ingrained in Hill's musical muscle memory by previous bands. The canon of music TOMBS has created has spanned several different genres, but I've always had it my intent for there to always be a certain amount of violence and hardness lurking in the background. And I think that statement or quote about spanning multiple genres is kind of relevant to this new EP from TOMBS. It follows up the latest full-length Under Sullen Skies, which was released in November 2020. The EP features covers of Killed by Death by Motorhead, Commit Suicide by Gigi Alin, also features an RKGD remix, along with 2 original songs from TOMBS. So, this EP was selected as part of our album review roulette a couple of weeks ago, which Duncan selected at random. When we picked it on our album review roulette, I didn't know at the time that it was essentially a covers EP until I started to actually listen the other day. So Duncan, since you picked this one, I'll let you kick off. How did you get on with the EP from TOMBS?
Firstly, you're fucking welcome. Right?
Random, but yeah.
So I did actually know this was a covers after you sent it. The reason I found out that was I was a bit confused if this was their first release or not, and I never read the press blurb, so sorry PR people out there and the band who paid the PR people out there. I just don't do it. I sometimes feel that like press releases, not that I'm trying to cover my own ass here, press releases at a time are worded in such a way to make you think what you are going to listen to is of a particular type. You know, it's usually followed up with things like for the wide influences, however, from, for people that like this band and this band. So you go in with a preconceived conception of what it's going to sound like, and I don't like that. I like taking it on the chin. However, as we mentioned, the fact that this is kind of stylistically very, very different, almost from track to track, did kind of give me pause for thought that this might not be their first release. It did send me to the internet, and I did very quickly find out that it is ostensibly a covers EP. Yeah. So as soon as I had that in there, things started to make a bit of sense. Yeah. Because on the first listen, things did not make much sense. It is very... Let me put it this way, the individual songs they do and the way they do them is great. I loved it. I think, once again, production benefits this. It has a rawness about it, but not at the detriment to any of the individual elements themselves. We're going to get to track 4 and the electronic hard turn, but we're going to hold back on that. But for the most part, you get these big, kind of oppressive, sludgy, and at times almost hardcore tinged guitar sounds, punishing drums, and a really cool vocal tone. This guy, I would love to hear if that at one point did black metal, because it's no longer in that register or cadence at all. It's kind of, there's almost a kind of hardcore-y, doomy, sludgy vibe going on, and it works. It's a really, really, really cool tone, and it fits comfortably where they're covering Motorhead, like we mentioned before, or other tracks. I do like the idea of Killed by Death though being covered. It's a track that I haven't listened to in a long time, and I actually like their cover of it as well, because it doesn't resemble, it's a lot slower, let's put it that way. So yeah, I wasn't sure on my first listen, then coming back with a bit more information. I took it for what it was. Now, EPs are always going to be a bit difficult to judge, especially when they are EPs filling in the blanks with the band picking songs that they want to cover and doing them in their own style. You always have to kind of judge that slightly different than you would release of an EP of original music. And then ultimately comes down to, has the band done a good job here on the cover? Have they literally pulled up Weezer and just released an album of songs which sound pretty much like the originals, except Rivers Cuomo singing on them? And I think they've done it well here. I think every track they do here of a covers variety sounds like the band's interpretation, like the same way when we listened to Church of Misery for the first time. And they have that, was it One Mice Blind, One Blind Mice? I can't remember the name of the song. But it's the cover on that one, which sounds fucking nothing like the original. It's a Quatermass cover, and it sounds nothing like it at all, because they grab it, they took it, and they made it their own style. And I like that. They genreify it. And that's what's happened here. Those tracks have been genreified into their style. And it works. It works. My issue comes from the kind of the choice to go so varied in this one, though. And that particularly hits in on the last two songs. So between Ex Oblivion and Commit Suicide, which is the first three tracks, you have a through line of not necessarily completely sounding like one particular style, but certainly sounding like one particular band. And then track 4 kicks in, Somber Ruin, which is vastly electronic for the most part. And it is so left field that I thought the first time listening to it that my player had done the old Genius thing and jumped to something else. But my head was kind of confused at how it would pick that as sounding like this. Even remotely similar. The weird thing about Somber Ruin, though, as it has this kind of industrial electronic thing in the background, is, see if they had a whole album of that, I would be happy as a pig in shit. I really think they execute that as a singular moment on the album of kind of industrial fused kind of doomy stuff really, really, really well, and in a way that I don't think many bands that I can recall sound like. It was almost a kind of unique quality whilst taking elements that you know very much sound like other things you've heard before and kind of personalising it in a really, really interesting way. The last track is a bit of an oddity for me, if I'm honest. I've tried several times. When I come to that one, it's the longest track here. It's 5.5 minutes. And it's like a combination of a lot of different things, which sound fine, but I don't understand its purpose on the release. I can see the connective tissue, even though it's a bit disparate, between the three preceding songs that don't have industrial elements and Somber Ruin. I cannot see the connecting tissue at the last track. Out with, and I don't know if that is even an original track. It's not a track I'm familiar with.
Yeah, it's an original track.
Right, it's an original track. I don't see the connecting tissue for that, and I don't understand why it's maybe not earlier on the album, on the EP. Maybe even open with that and then go into your covers and then you know go somewhere else. I was a bit confused by it, and I'm confused every time I listen to it. That's not to say that I dislike the track. I think it's fine for what it is. It's the weakest song on the release, in my opinion, and it's the last thing you hear on the release, which is also one of those things where I'm like, so I'm not entirely sure about that one. Everything else I like I say, it's difficult. My grade will reflect that. It is really difficult to review an EP, which is essentially a band playing predominantly other people's music. And that'll come with its own weight. However, as a first introduction to the band TOMBS, I'm super curious to go back, because the kind of doomy sludgy stuff sounds kind of great. Vocals, I love this guy's tone. Really love this guy's tone. I would love to see if those industrial elements feature anywhere else, because when Somber Ruin kicked in, I genuinely was like, this is fucking bitching. Like, really in a way where I just wasn't expecting it. So yeah, it's a kind of mixed bag for me.
Okay.
I don't know what the band are hoping to achieve from this, but they have a new fan in me.
Okay. I had heard TOMBS before. I'd heard their previous album from 2020, Under Sullen Skies. So I had a kind of rough idea of what TOMBS sounded like. And the press release that came with the album tags them as like post-metal, but it's not like the only kind of style they blend into their sound.
Why I don't read press releases, Dave.
The last album, it had post-metal in it, but there was also like black metal, there was thrash, there was sludge, there was death metal, there was heavy metal. There's loads of kind of different styles on the last album, and I enjoyed the last one. It's very kind of gloomy and ominous, but I mainly liked it because of that blend of styles that they merged so well together. It was experimental in places, but there were also huge sections where they just annihilate you with really dark and really savage riffs. The EP, I'm kind of a little bit confused, like yourself. I'm not entirely sure what the point of it is. Covers are cool, I suppose. Remixes are
cool,
kind of interesting. This feels like a stopgap to me, like before the next full length. It looks like it was recorded in various places at different times, so it may well have been just bits and pieces that they maybe left over that they wanted to kind of put out. I really like the opening track. This is one of the original tracks. It's the title track. It's very post sounding, actually. Not necessarily post metal. It has post metal elements, but it actually leans more into a kind of almost like post punk type sound for me. The guitar work and the vocals, the riffs are quite punk driven, and vocally, although Mike does some like heavier vocals, there's some quite like melancholic type melodies added in there as well. I really like the vibe on it, and actually the punkier style of it works well with the second track, which is the Motorhead cover. They kept the cover. It's fairly similar. It's fairly similar in terms of the kind of rhythm of the track. The original track. It's fairly similar. They keep the main melody. It's a bit heavier. Obviously, the production gives it a slightly more modern spin. The G.G. Alin thing, I'd never heard Commit Suicide by G.G. Alin, so I checked out the original. The original was like a really old school punk, really lo-fi sounding. The original recording was pretty rough. Again, TOMBS, they haven't really extended it any. They've kept the original hook in place. Their version's a lot more blackened, still very punk laden, but a bit more aggressive vocally, and the guitar tone gives it a slightly kind of heavier edge. The remix track. So the remix track is a remix of a track called Somber Ruin, obviously, which is on the last album. The original is very like lethargic and atmospheric, loads of weird noises and kind of odd vocals. It doesn't really kind of build to anything, but it works on the album as a bit of a kind of breather track. The remix has that kind of same kind of atmosphere, but there's more electronics and drum loops and strange noises on this one.
You're missing the word more awesome, Dave. There's more awesome going on.
Not quite my tempo, Duncan, but each to their own.
This is where we start to show our proper tastes.
True colours. The last track of the EP is like a kind of strange 5 minutes plus track of like kind of weird sinister sounds, and I think it's like a piano maybe. I'm not sure. There's a bit of a spoken word thing going on. I'm not sure if that was a sample or if that's just like if it's something they've recorded.
It reminded me of. It's certainly very, very, very close to a movie.
Right, I was unsure.
But I think it's maybe someone in the band might be able to correct us. It sounded like a male voice doing a script that I am almost 100% sure the original script is read by a woman.
Right.
And whatever movie it is or computer game. It's one of the two, but I've definitely heard it before because like I was instantly like, I know that. But then I like the voice was putting me off, but the more I've thought about it, the more I think it's actually whoever originally said the words might be a woman. So the band, hopefully they'll be able to tell me that I'm wrong because the internet loves to do that. So
as a track, I suppose that it has similarities to the more kind of sparse industrial stuff they did on the previous album, but in terms of
fit though, Dave?
That's the thing. I don't think it really adds anything to the EP in terms of substance, but the only thing I kind of got from it is it's a kind of cool long outro to the EP, I suppose, but which I don't really agree with on EPs anyway, to be honest. But whatever.
Dave doesn't like EPs to begin with.
I don't really like EPs.
On an EP, that pisses him off.
So for me, this had some cool moments. I would have preferred an EP of TOMBS tracks, if I'm honest, but I'm not a massive fan of cover songs or remixes, to be honest. Unless there's something really different and interesting about them. The covers on here, for me, weren't hugely different from the originals. I liked the title track. It definitely made me want to hear a new full length from TOMBS. But out with that, yeah, it was kind of just okay for me. Again, I'm not quite sure what the point of this is, other than here's some stuff we had left lying around. Possibly.
I just want to reiterate, Dave, you're welcome.
Thank you, Duncan. Kyle, what did you think?
Man, I hated it.
You hated it?
Yeah, I didn't really like this at all. I thought the title track was it was serviceable. I don't really like the guy's vocal tone, especially when it does that flat thing. I'm like, oh, that's not my thing. I mean, it's just a personal thing. I've got nothing against him. He's very good at what he does. I just don't fucking like it.
Okay.
Alexa, book me a ticket to Norway.
Yeah.
And pack my pimping hand.
And my shotgun.
I thought the drum production didn't fit the rest of the song. That's the main thing, because the blackened guitars and stuff, I really like that, and the bass tone was actually pretty fucking good. But the drums are just there's some fuckery going on there, and it just didn't fit the rest of it. It was just taking me out. It felt too progressive and too modern. And I know this is really niche and nitpicky, but that's immediately what I thought when I heard those drums going. I was like, what the fuck? Didn't really mix at all. Good. And I'm the same as you, Dave. Covers for me, it's unless you're doing something super different with the song, what's the point, honestly? I just don't really get it. They're perfectly serviceable covers. I can imagine if they're playing in a bar and there's a bunch of drunk bikers, they're going to do great with those covers. Other than that, I don't really see the point. I mean, I would be interested in hearing more of their original stuff in the style of the first track if they sort out some production issues, because it was all right. I didn't love it, but it was okay, this could be leading on to something better. But just didn't like the way he sung over the top of all it. It just didn't work for me at all. Okay. And then the last two tracks, it was wank industrial. it was just I don't know. I've heard industrial and electronic music, and this was just what are you doing? It's almost like they picked random elements of electronic things and just mashed them together, and it just didn't work for me at all. It was industrial with kick and snare, and then a weird trap hi-hat which had triplet rolls and stuff, and I was it just didn't work for me at all. And then one of the synth sounds just came out of pop, and I'm I don't think it just feels like you said, it was here's some stuff we've got laying around, let's just shove it out. And it was there's no real aim or purpose to this at all. And then if they did the first track and two covers, I probably would have liked it a lot more. But because they did the hard switch in the middle, it was just what the fuck? There's no focus here at all. It's super weird. And then the last track is just what are we doing here, guys? This is 5.5 minutes of
yeah. I know.
Yeah,
on an EP as well, it's
I know, yeah. This could have worked if it was on an album that was largely similar, not all, but if it had lots of industrial and electronic and weird sinister sounds all the way through the album, or they had a couple of breather tracks like that, and then it probably would have worked a lot better. But yeah, I mean, it's just the whole thing was just so disjointed for me. It was really, because when it did the same thing as Duncan, when the third track came on, I was like, what the fuck's going on? Have I pressed the button? Nope, no I hadn't. So I mean, hate's a strong word, but I didn't really get along with this at all that much. I mean, the first track was okay, I'll go and listen to more of that, because it was pretty good, aside from not getting on with the vocal tone too much, but I could probably get used to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, covers in the last two was just nah. Not for me. Strange release. I just don't get what they're doing with it. It's here's a couple of covers and some other shit we had laying around. Oh, and 2 new songs, one of which is really fucking weird. So
yeah.
So I was what is this?
I don't know. So ratings for Ex Oblivion by TOMBS. Duncan, what are you thinking?
A 3. 3 for me. I like it. I imagine from what I've heard, I liked it more than you guys. To me, there was a lot that did work. I think the choice of what they put together is a bit bizarre, but out with the final track, which didn't really necessarily sit all that well with me. Yeah. Every other song, whether it was listened to by itself, preferably listened to by itself, worked for me. I didn't have any of the issues that have been mentioned here for the most part. So I would just leave it at that.
Cool. I would kind of agree with you there. I when I listened to this, although the last two tracks were just kind of like, okay, cool. The first three, like I really enjoyed the first track. I loved the original track. The two covers, they weren't bad. They weren't amazing either, but I mean, they were fairly unoffensive. So I think I'd go 3. That first track definitely makes me want to hear another full length. And I went back and I listened to the previous album, and when I was listening, I was like, yeah, this was actually a really good album. So I'm interested to hear where they go next, because that first track on the EP was definitely a little different, a little bit more kind of post, like kind of post-punkish almost, which I quite enjoyed. So I'm interested to hear where they go next. I'm going to go 3 out of 5.
A little bit postman. I like it.
A little bit
postman pan.
Okay. Kyle.
If only Tombs were from Wales. I don't know, maybe this is an EP for the fans. This being my first experience of Tombs, maybe it's the wrong point to jump in on them. But I mean, it was just like, hey, what the fuck are you trying to do here? So for me, it's going to be slightly below you guys at 2.5.
2.5, okay, fair enough. So that is the new EP from TOMBS. It's called Ex Oblivion. Comes out on July 13th, I think, on Season of Mist Records. Check the links below to the Facebook, to the Bandcamp, so you can check it out. Let us know what you think. If you've heard any of the tracks, once you've heard the EP, happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That's the review. Thanks for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.